what they have revealed is that there's a private social network that isn't really about, what we think of social networks are about. So it's not about like reconnecting with your old high school friends or sharing cute dog videos, right? This network actually targets and discredits both citizens and scientists, researchers. Um, Basically, this is taking our tax dollars and they're funding an operation that attacks and criticizes those who are opposed to certain powerful industries. Okay. So the story begins with a kind of, I would say, shadowy initiative that was run by a public relations firm called Vfluence. Okay. Vfluence, it's a public relations firm. This firm was founded by a man named Jay Byrne. That name might sound familiar to some people, Jay Byrne. He was an executive at Monsanto. So he created this secret social network, and that network is called Bonus Eventus. So Bonus Eventus. So essentially, this secret network is a highly sophisticated closed platform. So it's invitation only. It is used to track, profile, and undermine people and organizations who criticize the use of pesticides and genetically modified organisms, or GMOs. Okay. This is not just a small, inconspicuous corner of the internet. Bonus Eventus is a robust, well-coordinated effort. It involves industry executives, government officials, and PR strategists. And they're all banding together to safeguard the corporate interests. Okay, so the first question I asked was, well, who are they targeting? They're targeting journalists, environmental groups, scientists, and even everyday people like you and me who are daring to question the safety of pesticides and GMOs. The network, according to this investigation, the network has detailed dossiers on over 3,000 individuals and organizations. And now these aren't just professional profiles that they're creating. We are talking about personal data, like their home addresses, their phone numbers, names of family members. Okay, so when you dig into it, you'll see some of the individual names that have been targeted. One of them is the New York Times food writer, Mark Bittman. So his profile on this secret platform includes where he lives, the details of 2 marriages, his personal hobbies, and this extensive criticism section. Michael Pollan, right? One of your friends, Joel, the author of Omnivore's Dilemma, he's profiled on it too. His profile even includes the names of his parents, his siblings, his son, his brother-in-law. And when this investigation reached out to Pollan to ask like what his response is, this is what he said, and I quote, "It's one thing to have an industry come after you after publishing a critical article. This happens all the time in journalism, but to have your own government pay for it is outrageous. These are my tax dollars at work," right? So keep in mind, our tax dollars are partly funding this. So
So how, okay, so this guy, um, Jay Byrne he was former executive at Monsanto. He founded this. So where's the government money coming from? Do they get grants? Are they an agency? What? I haven't heard you kind of give where's the funding? Obviously there's public funding going into this.
yes.
What's that avenue?
Okay, so in 2020, the USDA, so the United States Department of Agriculture, they contracted with what's called a strategic communication firm, and that was called the White House Writers Group. They contracted with them for up to $4.9 million. And it was part of a USDA strategy to undermine Europe's farm to fork, right? Farm to fork in Europe is an environmental policy that was aiming to reduce pesticide use by 50% by 2030. So basically, what this investigation is saying is that the USDA was strategizing to undermine that. And so they contracted with this strategic communication firm called the White House Writers Group. Now, V Vfluence, that PR firm that former Monsanto exec founded, they were to provide, quote, data services as part of that White House Writers Group contract that also included access to Bonus Eventus, right? That platform that I'm talking about. And that was according to records that were obtained from the USDA. The records don't specify how the money was divided out. It just specifies that quantity and what those main tasks were that it was used for. The contract was planned to last until 2025. Okay. And the USDA, when contacted, said that they're reviewing the agreement. Now, I should say that the managing director of the White House Writers Group, named Clark Judge, that managing director said that his organization thought that the Bonus Eventus was an online community for scholars, journalists, and the like who share perspectives and information on agriculture topics. Okay, so it sounds like they're kind of pleading ignorance in this. They just didn't really know what that whole organization was about, you know? And I don't know, maybe they didn't, right? But the fact still remains that tax dollars went to these organizations through these contracts with the USDA. Now, Burns has said that there's nothing unethical or illegal or inappropriate that's happening with this. Okay. On the other hand, you have, do you remember Austin Frerick? He was the co-chair of Biden campaign's agricultural antitrust policy committee. I know he's just a household name, you know.
Sure. Yeah, we had lunch together last week. Yeah.
It's the other day. You didn't invite me. Like, you know. So he actually has come out, and this was a statement that he made. Now, I should say, he has recently authored a book about the concentration of power in the food system. Okay. He has said this: I don't think most people realize the degree of corporate espionage and USDA's complicity with it. The coordination here, the fact that the USDA is part of this, is really scary. Okay, so what they're saying is that Byrne used this secretive platform to advise U.S. officials in an attempt to sabotage opposition to products that are created by the largest agrochemical companies. Okay, and they have our taxpayer dollars. Now let me go back and say,
Sina, let me I just got back from Switzerland. I just did a presentation in Switzerland, and it's fascinating. I don't think Americans realize how strong the green movement is in the European Union. Partly because in Europe, farms are far more embedded in the population. In fact, a lot of times farmers actually live in a village. They don't actually live at their farm. You know, the village adjoins the farm adjoins the village. The farmer lives in the village, and the farm is, you know, a mile or two away, and goes out to his farm every day. There's a much more highly integrated rural urban interface in Europe, and that's one of the reasons why the environmental regulatory movement is so strong in Europe. What was interesting to me, of course, I didn't speak at a you know a regular conventional industrial meeting. I was at the conference is called the Soil to Soul Symposium, and they say soul instead of gut because they don't like to use the word gut. So it was basically, soil to gut symposium, a connection of soil to your microbiome. And it was so these were folks, that were in whatever I would say our generally thought process, permaculturalists and all that, sustainable ag folks, regenerative ag folks, and it was interesting. They did not know that Bayer, the German company Bayer, had bought Monsanto.
Wow.
And so it was really interesting for me to explain to them, to these Europeans who think they are so far ahead of the Americans in regenerative capacity, that that evil company Monsanto, it's yours now. You
Yeah.
bought it. It was funny. It was funny to to make them aware of that, and they kind of quit. It kind of took a little bit of wind out of their sails, but yeah, if and they also told me that pretty much the way Europe goes, the U.S. follows, 10 or 15 years behind. So with this wave, I mean, I don't want to get on a rabbit trail of all the agriculture and chemical politics going on in the EU, but I'm just going to say it's huge. It's amazing to be there and see the level of, I mean, farmers here who think, the environmental regulations are hard. Um, the trade-off in Europe is that the farmers get roughly 60% of their income comes from government subsidies. So we'll talk about that in another podcast. But my point here is that when um, my flags went off when you said that this was an effort to try to reduce um, the European that Europe has this goal of reducing pesticides by 50% by 2030, and a lot of the impetus of this is to actually sabotage the European thing, to derail it. And interestingly, again, I was just there over the weekend, 3 days ago. Interestingly, these Europeans reported to me. Now these are friendly to us, to our side, okay? And they said to me that suddenly there are all these scientific studies coming out saying glyphosate is not cancerous. There's no problems with pesticides, no problems with herbicides.
Yeah.
So I was on the ground listening to these European, non-chemical farmers explaining that suddenly the research that kept all this stuff out of their system all these years is suddenly they're watching it just change in the last 2 years completely before their eyes. So this effort, this platform that we're discussing on today's podcast, that the USDA is actually funding money into a network sabotaging this European effort to get agenda-driven scientific papers published into the European community to blunt the effort of the Greens, who at least so far in the last 15 years have certainly had the upper political hand, and now it's being challenged in a way like they've never seen before, suddenly in the last 2 years. I wonder if there's a connection. Friends, want to dive deeper into our thought-provoking conversations? Become part of the Beyond Labels family today by joining below. For any gift amount, you'll get access to the full, uncut episodes.
Every contribution, whether big or small, keeps this podcast going.
So join us and expand your Beyond Labels experience. Thank you.